with his trainer, Eddie Reynoso, wearing black with white, also weighing in at 167.6 pounds. In his professional career, 54 victories, including 36 big wins by knockout, only one defeat with 2 draws, and he's undefeated for 6 years, and considered by many to be, pound for pound, the best in the world. He's the former 2-time light middleweight world champion, former middleweight world champion, former light heavyweight world champion, the reigning, defending super middleweight champion of the world, damas y caballeros de Guadalajara, Jalisco, México, representando al gran campeón, Saúl Canelo.
What's happening, everyone? And welcome to our very special Canelo versus Ryder week special. I got Georgie with Off the Ropes Boxing and MMA with me, and D-Style Boxing will be joining us shortly. Man, I love that intro. What do you think, Georgie?
Man, I can't even complain, man. This shit was real nice, smooth. I could, if you want, we go another minute.
You know, I'll tell you, man, it feels good to play that. You know, it is D-Style's intro that he put together, but I helped him with it. And it's my painting of Canelo as an Aztec warrior. So I thought, what the hell? It's fight week. I'm putting it in right there, man. Well, I'll tell you what, dude. Let's start off while we're waiting for D-Style Boxing, man. We got to talk about John Ryder versus Callum Smith. Now, back in the day, right, there was this idea that John Ryder actually beat Callum Smith. Okay, so we're going to take a look at this fight here as a little bit of a warm-up. Should Ryder be the actual Ring Magazine champion, the actual WBA and WBC Diamond champion? Okay, now this is a legit thing, right? A lot of people talked about it back in the day, and then it kind of went away. But this fight has always been classified as a robbery. Now, Georgie, before this rescore, had you seen the fight?
Which one? I'm sorry.
Ryder versus Smith.
Ryder versus Smith. Oh yeah. Actually, you know what? I didn't watch it. So watching it when we scored it again it was new to me. Like I gotta watch it for the first time.
All right. You know, a little me too. I'll tell you this. Like I watched this fight in the lead up to Canelo versus Callum Smith, and then I didn't really score it, but I had heard it was a robbery. I thought John Ryder actually did quite well, but I didn't actually score it. Right. So now I took the opportunity to score this fight. To see, and Georgie, you have a little bit of like it kind of sounds like maybe your mic got cut off or something. Like it sounds like almost like you're on a computer mic. Not sure, but yeah. In the meantime, man, I want to give a shout out to JC Boxing, who's in the house, and the Shoe Shine, Dave from the 408. Welcome, man. All right, Georgie. Well, let's start with you, brother, if you'd like, man. You could tell us how you saw this fight, dude. Like now that you put your scoring goggles on, was this fight a robbery?
How does it sound now? Does it sound the same thing?
It sounds a little bit of the same thing, but you can go ahead and rock, baby. It's not horrible.
Yeah, I have no idea. Let me just refresh myself really quick. If you don't mind.
All right. Well, in the meantime, what I'd like to do is give a scorecard from Julian, who's also with Off the Ropes Boxing and MMA. He wasn't able to make it, but he did take the time to score this fight. All right. Callum Smith versus John Ryder, November 2019. All right. Now, like I said, Callum Smith was on the roll. He was the champion, the Ring Magazine champion. Ryder was a challenger. All right. Now, this is how Julian had the fight. He took a look at the fight, and he gave Ryder rounds 1, 2, 4, which he indicated to be a swing round, and then 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Essentially, only giving Smith rounds 3, 5, and 6. Okay. And he said that someone was paid. That's all I'm saying. So, according to him, the closest you could have this fight would be 8-4 for John Ryder. There's no way this fight could have gone to Callum Smith, in his opinion. So, he would classify this particular fight right here as a robbery. Georgie, what do you think, man? Are you with us?
Can you hear me now? I don't know what's going on, man.
You sound great, man. I think you sound good now.
It sounds better now?
You sound perfect.
Oh shit! For some reason, it just. I guess I couldn't really hear myself. Okay.
Well, you're back, and Julian, He gave the fight to Ryder, classified it as a certified robbery. Nando, what's happening, man? Right now, we're warming us up with talking about if John Ryder is actually the uncrowned super middleweight champion. We're finding out right now. Georgie, how'd you have it?
Yeah, so like I said, man, watching would be my first time watching this fight. Of course, hearing everybody talking about how they thought it was a robbery, how Ryder won this fight, and actually before you kind of gave us the information or gave us our for us to come on to the show this week to rescore. I started rescoring this probably about 2 weeks ago, and I just wanted to be prepared for this moment, and I got to finish watching it not too long ago, a couple of days ago. Finished it actually just yesterday because I like to go into the shows, with it fresh in my mind. So 2 weeks ago when I started it, I rewatched it again. I kind of had to rescore again these first couple rounds. I had Smith winning, of course, the first round, Ryder going to the second round. It went to Ryder. And these fights, I mean, it's pretty competitive. I feel like both guys early on had moments where, especially in the first round, where Smith controlled the center of the ring with some solid jabs. He was able to keep his distance, and immediately into the second round, Ryder started to pick up, and I could see where Ryder shows that he knows how to fight with his size, and he fights very good in the pocket, and that's exactly what he did here, going on from like 2 to about the 7th, and I had going from 2 to 7, I had Ryder winning 2, 4, 5, and Smith winning the 7th, which was my first swing round. So that was a very close round. Again, like I said, both guys doing what they both had to do in this, implementing each other's game plan. Ryder fighting on the inside, working his way on the inside with Smith on the outside. Trying to keep the distance, but Ryder being the busier, able to stay in the pocket, able to land off some combinations. They both got good counters off. And after the 7th round, I didn't have Smith winning another round until about the 10th, and that was my next swing round, which I thought was a good round from both guys. Again, they both had good moments, both countering from their strong points. So Smith was countering great from the outside, where Ryder was on the inside countering, making Smith miss and pay on the inside. And 11 and 12, I had Ryder winning this. Again, when we do these rescores, I guess a lot of people are quick to throw out robbery. So I couldn't really say if it was a robbery before I watched this. All I could say was that's all I heard from other creators or other people that watched the fight. And and I'll say at the end of this, I did score 7-5 for Ryder. When it's that close, I feel like 7-5. It wasn't like Ryder completely dominant. To me, at least in my eyes, rescoring this, I didn't feel like Ryder completely dominated or completely won a majority of the rounds, even though Julian had a 9-3. And we all respect each other's scores and stuff. So I'm not going to say that Julian's wrong or I'm right or you're wrong. We all just saw it differently. But for me, 7-5, I had Ryder winning. The judges didn't have Ryder winning. So actually, I take that back. For some reason, it's really hard to say if it's like a complete robbery, but they definitely had the wrong guy winning. I'll say that much. Yeah, that's a tricky one because Ryder isn't the one that came away winning this, man. So it was really hard for me to sit here and it's got me stumped a little bit. I think I might have to.
Georgie, you got to call it, man. Was it a robbery or what?
Because you know why? It got me stumped because I honestly was thinking that Ryder won this one, like officially. No, he didn't win. So I definitely said they got the wrong guy winning. And when you have the wrong guy winning, then yes, it was a pretty good fight. It was competitive. Both guys did their thing. I guess it would have to be a robbery because they had the wrong guy winning.
Well, there you go. 2 for a certified robbery. You know, we've heard that before when we've done the controversial rescore. Like, well, you know, it wasn't necessarily a robbery, maybe, but the other guy should have won. Well, if the other guy should have won, then it is a robbery, like Georgie said. So Georgie does classify it as a robbery. I want to give a shout out to Lil Penny, who's in the house. What's happening, man? Team Batman Boxing. And then Nando Llamas here says that Ryder's an excellent measuring stick for Canelo, coming back from surgery, and a not great 2022. Great points, Nando, and we're going to get into that. Nando here thinks that, well, it's not a robbery if you've got it that close. All right. Well, that's what Nando has to say. So let me tell you guys how I saw it. First off, I want to pop open this Michelob Ultra. Now, not just because I'm some big Canelo fan am I drinking Michelob Ultra. Okay, for the record, I started drinking this before he was in that Super Bowl commercial. I'm just saying.
And let me guess, you're golfing too, all right, Chicano?
That's right. How'd you know, man?
Hey, man. That's what happens when you move to Arizona. You got that nice golfing weather. So
I'm also riding horses now.
I knew it. Shirtless? Is it shirtless or
exactly? Oh, you got to, man. You know, I don't want no farmer's tan. Come on now.
Yeah, you gotta show the taco meat, huh?
That's right. That's right. So, yeah, dude. No, Paul told me that this beer is an excellent beer because it tastes clean, and also you can drink as many as you want without being hungover the next day. And so far, I co-sign that. It's just a nice, clean taste. So I like it. Michelob Ultra. Try it if you haven't tried it. All right, man. I want to give a shout out to Puro Sur, who's in the house. What's up, Puro Sur? Right now, we're just figuring out if John Ryder is indeed the uncrowned champion. Okay. Now, check this out. Since this fight, obviously, Callum Smith went into the Canelo fight undefeated. John Ryder has been undefeated since this fight. He had a couple of wins actually before this fight. He had I think a split decision loss to Rocky Fielding, right? But that was before this fight. So John Ryder technically would still be the champion right now if he had won. Now, I had heard people talk about this fight as a robbery. And like I said, dude, you know, I went back to score it this time around with the eyes of a judge, right? So this is how I had it. You know, I agree with you too, George, in the sense that sometimes, you know, there were rounds where I feel like Ryder didn't cement the win. There was a lot of low activity rounds and very little to choose from, especially like in that first round. It was definitely like a feel out round. I felt like there wasn't much going on, but I did give that round to Ryder. But if you're trying to take it from the champ, that's not how you take a round, in my opinion. Yeah, he mounted a little bit more offense and he was on the front foot, but to me, he didn't do enough. But Ryder did start imposing himself further on. On top of that, too, being like the aggressor, I felt like Ryder throughout the fight had the more clean punches. You could hear them. They were more crisp, more thudding. Although Callum Smith did have some good counters. I also felt like he had a really good jab at times, but he wouldn't utilize it enough. There were a lot of times where Callum Smith would prefer to fight on the inside with John Ryder, or they would both agree to maybe take it to the ropes, or maybe it was a one-way negotiation with Ryder taking Smith to the ropes, but they would have it out there sometimes. And I ended up giving Ryder rounds 4. That's the first after round 2. I gave Ryder round 4, right? And then I gave Smith rounds 5, but I thought that 5 could be a swing round. I gave Smith the edge on that one because of that good jab, and it could have made the difference to somebody, but it was a swing round in my opinion. And then I gave Smith round 6, okay, and I thought that was a bit of a sloppy round. Smith had some eye-catching two-piece type shots, right? But then after that, I felt like I was starting to take over. I actually have it a sweep from 7 through 12, which I'm not anticipating that as I was scoring this fight. I didn't even have any swing rounds being indicated. There was a lot of front foot aggression by Ryder, coupled with too many lulls in the fight where I felt like Smith didn't do what he needed to do to make a strong answer. Good attrition, good front foot dominance by Ryder. And then on top of that, to me, rounds 10 through 12 are clear Ryder rounds. He was just really bringing it to Callum Smith, and it was a great closing performance, in my opinion. So let's take a look at the scorecards. Now, in the scorecards, 2 of the judges had it 8-4 for Callum Smith, and then a third judge had it 9-3. Okay, so pretty wide, if you ask me. That's my opinion. Oh, here, the Shoe Shine Boxing says that Ryder's pretty tough, but he won't go the distance. Won't do better than Caleb Plant. And then Lil Penny here says that Canelo by KO in the 6th. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to give a warm welcome to D-Style Boxing. D-Style, thank you for joining us, brother.
Just chilling here. Just glad to be here.
Yeah, dude. I just grabbed a beer myself. Michelob Ultra do? Okay, we're just discussing the Callum Smith versus John Ryder fight, and I'm officially certifying this one a robbery. Right now, it's 3 out of 3 of a robbery. Now, D-Style, I know you didn't have the chance to rescore this fight, but what are your recollections on this?
I do remember watching it and thinking to myself that Ryder like slightly pulled it off, but I didn't score it round by round, nothing like that.
Yeah. My thing is, dude, like, you know what? If more people had actually seen this fight, you know, I feel like it was like a UK level fight. I think more people would have been crying when Canelo took on Callum Smith. But then there would be like unfinished business because say they made a strong stance on that. Well, I mean, if you think about it, then he would be going to fight the uncrowned champion because Ryder has not taken a loss since then.
Yeah. He hasn't actually. And you know what? He's gone through a run, a pretty solid run. I mean, it's you can't really take away from the guys he's fought. He's fought the most top 10 guys out of anybody, right? And he's been active. And in an era where guys can go a whole year without fighting, people want to nitpick who Ryder's been fighting, but he's fighting, right? And I don't know about you, I think Jacobs is a formidable win, right? I don't think Jacobs looked the same at 168, but it's still a name nonetheless, you know? And Ryder was not expected to win that fight, and he did.
Right. He was the underdog. He was also not expected to beat Parker, although that was an injury type of fight. But a lot of people thought that Jacobs versus Ryder fight was a robbery. I think that's ridiculous. I had money on Jacobs, and I did not think that was a robbery.
You remember the Fast and the Furious? Remember what Vin Diesel said? It doesn't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning is winning, right? At least he's in there actually fighting.
Right.
Like I keep hearing, nobody in the chat, but I keep hearing, and Twitter is the main whatever, but the main culprit. But like I keep hearing names like, well, what about Jamal? Like, well, Jamal's retired. He's not fighting anybody, right? So why is he in the mix, right? And the other thing is that Canelo is going to come back in September. People are acting like we're not going to see Canelo again until May or some shit, like next year. Like this is a once a year run. He's not Errol Spence. He doesn't fight every 16 months, okay? He's not Keith Thurman. He doesn't fight every 4 years, okay? Like Canelo fights twice a year at minimum. What are people bitching about?
Exactly. That's all it is people want to bitch. That's all it is, man. People just want to find something to bitch about, especially with the content creators, right? They got to feel like they have their little cult following. So anytime they open their mouth and their cult following hears what they got to say, you know, they're out there fucking celebrating like, yeah, you're right. So it's unfortunate it's that way. And you're right. You know, Jacobs and the Zach Parker, I watched those fights just recently as well, because I know, again, just like the Smith and the Smith and the Ryder, I didn't get to watch it live. And same thing with the Parker and Ryder fight. Like Ryder was fucking doing very well in there. You know, he's not very active. He's real selective with his shots. I think he's good. I think he's always in good position for defense and offense when he's in there. So I mean, I think, you know, going into the Canelo fight, it's gonna be pretty interesting to see these first couple rounds, especially they're both equal. They're pretty much the same size. It's not like Canelo's got to fight, you know, to fight on the inside. He's gonna have to fight somebody that's there with him. So it's gonna be.
They're the same person, according to YouTuber, by the way. I just wanted to put that out there. You know what
I mean? Is that what they're saying? Well, you know, I was sitting there thinking that if you were preparing for Canelo, like Ryder, I believe he's a southpaw, right? But otherwise, man, that'd be a great guy to, like, you know, as far as like a high-profile sparring partner. I don't really hear about high-profile sparring partners like there used to be like 5-10 years ago, right? When somebody would bring in like a Mosley or somebody like that. That doesn't happen anymore, really. Doesn't seem like. But man, if you could bring in a Ryder, if it was the other way around, I mean, that would be a great preparation for Canelo, in my opinion. And we're gonna get into that here in a second, man. We're gonna break down that fight. But real quick, man, I just want to give a shout out to Mexico versus England, man. Like, I'll tell you what, this is becoming just like a pillar stone of boxing. Used to be Mexico versus Puerto Rico, right? But I feel like things have changed. Now we're seeing a lot of Mexico versus England. Now, here in a second, we're going to go through every single fight that Canelo's had. Just a quick little image, right, to just reflect how well Canelo's done. 7-0 against UK fighters. But D-Style, you know, you have a great depth of knowledge in general. On top of that, you know, in lower weight classes where there's a lot going on between England and Mexico that I just don't know that much about, man. Tell us, how are things going as far as all this is concerned?
Well, I mean, in order for it to be a rivalry, like both sides got to be winning, right? I mean, I'm just saying, right? Like but in all seriousness, look, England's gotten its few wins here and there. They have, right? Like you got like Haddon, got an old Castillo and stopped them or whatever. But I just feel like for the most part, we're used to the Mexican going over there to the UK, right? And fairness, because there's just a lot more money there in terms of financial value for the fighters to make, right? Their fans support like this, like a lot, right? And it's not as poor as Mexico. I'm just stating facts, but we're used to seeing the Mexican go over there and like just take over, like, you know what I mean? Like go to their Lions Den, which is not. Is it really scary for the Mexican fighter? I mean, they're singing "Oh Sweet Caroline" and a bunch of drunk Brits, just having a good old time singing "Ole Ole Ole," and there's only one. It's not a very intimidating. So probably the Mexicans probably like, like Lara, they just have a good time over there. Like, okay, these guys are partying it up, shit, right? So the Mexicans show up over there, whoop ass, take their belts, and they like stay over there. Like Lara is just doing a tour around the UK right now. He went to Leeds and in Nottingham, and soon he'll be in London, just doing a tour of shit. But now we have a situation where the guy from the UK is going to go to the Mexican Lions Den. Now he's going to Mexico, which is more than just a different type of fan base, right? It's our real fight fans in Mexico. Now, granted, he don't know Spanish, so if they say, te van a noquear, culero, he probably doesn't know what that means anyway. You know what I mean? Like, he's offering me Jello. Like, I don't know what he'll be thinking. But it's going to be a lively crowd. But I know Ryder's talking about how, like, oh, I've seen everything. Like, no, you haven't. You haven't seen this before. All right? I promise you that. Okay, and he's going to be standing in that ring. I don't know what type of extravagant entrance you're going to do for Canelo. It's probably going to top them all, but he's going to come out to a roar, right, that I don't think Ryder's ever heard before in his life. And it's not just that. It's not just the atmosphere. It's the altitude. For those that don't know, the Mexican national team rarely loses in Mexico, especially in places like Jalisco or places like Mexico City, right? The reason is because of the altitude. Okay, the lungs, the Mexican lungs, right? Even the best European teams, Spain just had to settle for a draw against Mexico in Estadio Azteca, right? Now, I know this isn't in Mexico City. I'm just giving you an example, right, of how tiring it is to in this case, fight in that altitude. Canelo went over there. It took him a week to adjust, and he's from there. So Ryder just showing up from Los Angeles. I'm sorry, buddy. You're going to be huffing and puffing by round 3 or 4. So it's not just the fan base and the roar of the crowd. It's going to be the aura, and it's going to be the altitude. It's going to be a lot of things, okay? So now not only is the Mexican usually favored to beat the British dude, now you're going to fight the best Mexican of them all, and then you're going to fight him in his backyard under his conditions, under his home field advantage. I haven't checked, right? But somebody needs to check. I'm pretty sure Ryder has some balls of steel because it takes a lot of cojones to go under those conditions. But to answer your question, it's kind of a one-sided, if we're honest, a one-sided rivalry. You know what I mean? I'm just like, for the most part, it's a one-sided rivalry.
Hey, well, George, you got anything to say about that, brother?
No, man, I could sit here and listen to these styles talk all the time, man. So, I mean, all great points. I mean, there's nothing there that I could contest. Not that I want to contest, but I mean, it's true. I mean, right, a rivalry, Mexico, Puerto Rico. I mean, I'm sure offhand, like we could probably think UK and USA as well. I mean, look at Calzaghe, Hopkins, Roy Jones, Jeff Lacey, just a few to name off the top of my head. So I mean, there's definite rivalries. I definitely can't really say Mexico and UK, but it is going to be interesting to see how Ryder handles this. And I will say though, I do think the UK and Mexico do have the hardcore fans, I think. And,
yes.
And they definitely love their fighters. They throw
Great
everything behind them. Yeah, they throw everything behind their fighters, no matter who. Just look at Chisora and Tyson Fury, right? That shit sold out really quick. And just Mexico as it is, we have great fucking the fan base is great. We get behind anybody and everybody, especially if you got that name and you're showing that you want to do great for your country. And Mexican fighters and UK fighters always wear their heart in their sleeves when they go into that ring. But John Ryder will be in a rude awakening here, not just like the altitude. I think also it'll be like the atmosphere, just how electric it's going to be, and it's going to be exciting to see, man. And I honestly I can't wait. I know there's a lot of shit talking. A lot of people don't like the fact that Canelo's fighting John Ryder, or they want to see him fight Andre. They want to see him fight Charlo. Want to see Benavidez, but come on, look, when you're the face of boxing, it's not like he's facing a nobody. Like, and the funny thing is, a lot of these guys that are complaining for Canelo to fight these names, like these guys are hardcore boxing fans as well, so they know who a John Ryder is. You know, they know who who's in the rankings. So it's not like John Ryder just magically appeared out of nowhere, out of fucking thin air, and Canelo said, "Okay, I want to fight this guy." Like, Ryder got in line. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. I mean, you know, yeah, Parker pretty much quit with a broken hand, but I mean, a win is a win. And watching it, like I said, I watched it this morning, and it looked like Ryder was landing some really good shots. I mean, up and even to that fourth round whenever Parker broke his hand, but he landed a strong left, and I was like, I already knew how it was going to end, but if I was watching this without knowing the ending, like I could definitely see Ryder possibly, you know, slowing Parker down and doing really well. And you know, Ryder's a solid fighter. We can't complain. He's definitely got the names on there. He fought Jacobs, and he fought Saunders, Fielding, Smith, and he just never got the nod on these ones. And who knows where his career would be if he got the nod in these wins against these guys. For
sure. You know, and I'll tell you this, man, I'm happy for Ryder, and I was trying to be humble talking about the Mexico versus UK rivalry, but now I'm going to talk my shit. Canelo's like 7-0 against these dudes, and we're just going to go through them real quick, go down memory lane, and we're going to start with the not-so-great Matthew Hatton. Now, D-Style, you've been around, man, you know, one of the YTBC originals. Now, you called Canelo being the next big thing early. Did you call that before this fight? And I also want to know what your recollections are of this particular fight.
I could guarantee you I'm the first guy on YouTube that talked about Canelo Alvarez. I could guarantee it. Why? Because it's an unfair advantage. I live in El Paso. I have the antenna from Juarez. I was watching him on Televisa. I was watching him on Azteca. Okay, when he was just a teenager, when he was like 17, 16. And I was telling people about him. And we did the Robodo Radio show, and I told everybody, this was back in the Block Talk days. Watch out for this kid. Of course, look, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I totally predicted that it was going to be the pound-for-pound king and 4-division champion, undisputed. I didn't predict that, but I knew he was going to be a future world champion, right? And I said, watch for this kid. They're going to put him on the undercard of Mosey Mayweather. That's when he was introduced to the boxing public, and I think he impressed. People still bring up when he was 19 years old and he was hurt by Cotto's brother. They still bring that up, right? Like, oh, if he hurt him, you don't think Plank could hurt him? Nope, I don't. And I was proven right. But yeah, I saw it before that. Now, look, let me tell you something, man. No one is above criticism. I had a lot to criticize Canelo about in this fight. I don't want to touch too much into that. I want to be one of those guys that dives too deep and pats himself in the back because he criticized somebody in the past. Because Canelo already fixed those issues, and he's more than made up for it, right? But I saw that win coming a mile away. That's when Max Kellerman gave the famous line, maybe he's ready to fight the actual guys and get past the brothers, because he was beating up the brothers at the time.
Damn. Well, I'll tell you this, man. My recollection is I was rooting for Hatton. So at this point, I was still a Canelo hater because I did see Canelo get chin checked by Jose Cotto, and I thought, wow, this guy's a hype job. Fuck this guy, right? I was not rooting for him. But I did watch this fight recently just to reflect on a younger Canelo. Wow. Very impressive early on. On top of that, too, 5 punch combinations, often rip into the body, a natural counter puncher at this point, man. Pretty impressive. Georgie, do you have any recollections about this particular fight?
Definitely. I was not on YouTube at this time, or, you know, I couldn't say I remember who said it first, but hey, I believe D Styles. Sorry, JC. But I definitely remember because at this time we really didn't have too much. We didn't really have a Mexican guy we're rooting for. I mean, there was Chavez Jr. Of course, his name was out there, and regardless of your race, like you always Mexican fans, like they said, we're hardcores, and we love to cheer for our fighters. So at this time, I think Canelo was maybe 19, 20. So I do remember this fight. I do remember the Cotto fight. And then the other ones that came after this. I remember seeing him, and I remember seeing, like they say with the young guys, the eye test, and he was still even dominating. He still was good at body punching. He wasn't perfect yet, but he definitely had the potential. And you want to see him from this fight forward. You want to see the improvements, and he definitely did that.
Yeah, he also had that youthful aggression. Now, JC here says that he was watching Canelo before D-Style, but did you say he was the next big thing, JC? That's what I want to know, man. All right. Now, the last time...
Go ahead. I'll bring it up after this.
Okay, well, the last time I believe that Canelo did fight in Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico. He fought Ryan Rhodes, right? It was like a KO stoppage in the 12th, TKO. Ref waved it off after like a 5-piece combination. This was kind of like a minor fight. I remember watching him, rooting against him once more, right? I was still a hater. D-Style, do you have any recollection on this particular fight?
I do. I was actually disappointed in this performance. He got the stoppage in the last round, I believe.
Yep.
And I was kind of wondering, like, what's going on? I remember texting my cousin, and we're like, "Oh man, come on, he needs to make a statement here." Like I guess there's always been high expectations, right? And I don't know. I felt like he could have done a little, like he was still green though. I think it's in hindsight, I understand, right? Like he was still green. He was still kind of working on his craft, but I think, and this is kind of Jose Sulaiman's fault. Like he wanted to put the belt on Canelo, right? Before Canelo actually earned it. We're honest, Canelo didn't earn his first title. Like if we're just honest, right?
I can say that now. It's all right.
Yeah. But and he wanted against Matthew Haddon was not a 140. I'm sorry, he was not a 154 pounder, right? And I'm not even going to touch the catch weight that he didn't even make. It's whatever, right? That's in the past. But this fight, I felt like, okay, you have to like make up for it. Like you know what I mean? This is the fight we got to destroy this guy. And after this performance, I got to be honest, I was already thinking to myself, that's it. But put him in there with the top 154 pounders. He wants to be a champion, then that's it. You got to step up and fight the top guys, But yeah, that's what I remember about this fight.
All right, Georgie, any recollection, man?
No, actually, I don't remember this one.
It was low key. It was a HBO Boxing After Dark, and then I believe after this he went to fight Citron. But yeah, this was like D-Style said, unimpressive. But I mean, it was still a one-sided fight. But I did expect a little bit more. But Canelo, he didn't look like he was ready to go to war. Like this fight was all or nothing for him. Very young Canelo. And then let's bring it to Amir Khan. Okay, now this is almost like
that's right. We're just doing UK fighters. Sorry,
UK fighters, man. But you're right. This is a big jump, right? Canelo's taking it to 155 to fight Amir Khan. He's already gone through Trout, Mayweather, Laura. Not gone through. He lost to Mayweather, but you know what I mean. All right, Angulo to Amir Khan, right? This fight, we all know. This is the most. This photo right here is the worst I could do to Khan. I didn't want to shout out, right? Be polite, but we all know what happened. He got knocked the fuck out. Okay, D-Style, what are your recollections about this particular fight?
First of all, this was one of my. I actually did my post fight before the fight, right? And because I saw it coming, like I knew he was gonna knock him out. I'm actually glad we're doing this because it gives people some perspective. Like people tend to think that, nowadays everybody stigmatizes you if you support Canelo in any way, shape, or form, or you're a fanboy, and like you know what I mean. But
right,
I'll criticize a fighter if there's legitimate criticisms. And I'll be honest with you, I criticize the shit out of Canelo for this fight. I felt like this was not worthy of a middleweight title defense against a guy that was known to have a weak chin. Before this, he was getting knocked down by lightweight. So I saw the knockout coming a mile away. I saw it. Like I'm just telling you, I saw that thing coming. Like eagle eye, I saw that thing coming a mile away. Never in doubt. And when he knocked him out, I thought Amir Khan died, bro. I think. Look, has Canelo ever gotten on his knees to pray for a dude like that? I think that's the only time he's done it.
Damn, he thought he killed him too.
I
I
think that
bet.
might be it.
He's like, "Fuck, lo mate,
A la
chingado." You know?
verga.
And this was after he fought Miguel Cotto too, and Kirkland, right? So a lot of time's gone by, and he's still relatively young. And this is great to go back and look and see like how much business Canelo's been taking care of, right? Since he was a very young man. Although, like D-Style said, he did get some criticism for this fight. Okay, Georgie, so you're on the heels of Canelo beating Cotto. We know you like Cotto. I mean,
Yeah.
who are you rooting for in this fight? Did this fight piss you off? What do you remember?
Yeah, because at the time of the Cotto fight, we all know, Triple G was already running through the fighters he was running through, and we're asking for that kind of a fight. And I was always a fan of Canelo, but I think I kind of was like with everybody else, like let's see the Triple G and Canelo fight now. Like it's time. I was being fucking anxious, whatever. I did definitely criticize this one as well. I mean, we got to give it to Khan for fucking growing some balls and doing what nobody else wanted to do. Nobody else wanted to step in there. And I expected a knockout. I didn't expect Khan to do as well as he did. I thought the knockout would have came sooner, but like typical Canelo fashion, he likes to sit back and enjoy the ride. That's kind of what he did in this fight. Like he enjoyed the ride. There was no, he wasn't in no kind of danger.
Right.
He took Khan's best shots. It's like he was in there sparring. Like he was just kind of filling stuff out. He was just kind of, seeing where he could go with it. And you could see, just like even with the Danny Garcia fight and Khan, like Danny Garcia saw holes in Khan's game to land that left hook. And even if it was a no look in the moment we were watching it, rewatching the Garcia and Khan, you can see Garcia was already trying to throw that left hook a little bit earlier. I want to say like 2 rounds sooner. And I think that's one of Canelo's favorite things to do is he kind of like feints the jab to the body, makes you drop your hands. And that's exactly what he got with Khan was he threw a jab to the top, kind of feint the bottom, make his hands drop a little bit. And that fucking right hand came from hell and he took him the fuck out. And it was ugly. It was brutal. I think we celebrated instantly, but then just like the Pacquiao fight, we kind of stood there quietly like, oh shit. Like, and my dad at the time, he was like, my dad was already like a born again Christian. He like kind of turned his whole life around. He was like, man, I think I might have to say a prayer for this guy, man, that hopefully he's not dead. But yeah, I did definitely give a little bit of criticism for this one.
Yeah, dude, I remember this fight. Like D-Style, I was not worried about it, and the haters love to say, oh, well, Khan was ahead. Well, he might have been ahead, but I mean, I was not worried. Ultimately, it's like you said, George, he was just feeling things out. I remember the commentator saying something about the kids crying in the corner because Khan was hitting Canelo, and he's like, well, I think Canelo's just fine. And he was just fine, man. Fucking lights out. He knocked out Khan, and that's all she wrote, man. Whew. That was a good one. A nice highlight reel KO.
This was this was Canelo's like Leo Santa Cruz is a tank. That's what this was.
Oh shit.
And the UK KOs keep coming. Let's talk about it, man. Liam Smith, 154-pound defending champion, undefeated, right? Canelo was flirting with 155, went to 154 to take on Liam Smith. It was a hot crowd. I believe this was in Texas. I don't remember specifically. But D-Style, what do you remember about this particular fight?
I like this fight. I think Liam Smith was a worthy contender here in the shot. So why not? I think I like this fight personally. And it was just like a fight that Canelo was just staying busy at. You know what I mean? Like very similar to this fight this weekend. This fight, it was a solid fight, solid performance, and I thought it's one of Canelo's best wins against UK fighters.
Right, and like you
said, it's aged pretty well actually. The win.
Exactly. I was just about to say that. All right, Georgie, what do you recall from this fight, man?
I do remember Liam Smith being a worthy contender. He was solid. And, watching highlights, and sometimes the highlights don't necessarily give you what the fighter is like, but you can see some of the things that I liked. I saw things I liked what I seen in Liam in Smith. I thought he would be a good opponent for Canelo and get some work in there, a stay busy fight. Again, like in Canelo's fights, you ever see him in any kind of trouble or worried, or any kind of rush. You can see he's just kind of stalking, deflecting shots, countering, feinting, setting up, the power shots that he loves to throw. Body shot from hell. I mean, it was a good fight. It was a good win for Canelo. And with this, like, Canelo's already pretty much, you could say, was like the face of boxing, already was getting that recognition. So it kind of brought to light some of these UK fighters, because typically if it wasn't a Canelo fighting these UK guys, like, no one really would have known who these UK fighters were. So it turned out to be a good thing for everybody. And now look at what's going on. Like D-Style just said, like, it aged well, because like Liam Smith, he got a good win against Conor Ben. I mean, not Conor Ben. Eubanks, yeah, Eubanks, exactly.
That's right. And we'll see how the rematch goes. Fast forward to the next year in December, Canelo signs a crazy deal with DAZN, and to launch, they do this gimme fight with Rocky Fielding, who was a baby belt champion, who was ranked top 10 according to BoxRec and ESPN. But a lot of people give Canelo crap for this particular fight. D-Style, what do you think?
I didn't have a problem with this fight at all. He had just finished having a rematch with Triple G, right? Went back to back against who many were calling the guy that he didn't want to fight. He fought him twice, right? And then he moved up to a new weight class that he's never fought in before. And I don't have a problem with it. I mean, just look up all the guys that get praised, right? Andre Ward, Hopkins. Look up the first guys they fought when they moved up, especially Ward. Look up Ward. Like, he fought Alexander Brand, you know what I mean, when he moved up in weight class, right? And then he fought Barrera, right, before he fought Kovalev. Like, people wanted Canelo to jump in and just go right in there with the Callum Smith, like right out, like in his first fight at 168, right? And what I remember is this. I remember all the people crying and, he's just trying to get a Reggie belt, and he's not. Don't call him a 4-division champion, which I wasn't, right? But I understand it was a Reggie belt. You know who else understood that? Canelo. Reggie champions are tune-ups for Canelo, right? Like, how many fighters could say that? If you're a Reggie belt champion, you're just a tune-up for Saul Canelo Alvarez, right? So I just why doesn't he fight the real WBA champion? Right? He comes back and beats him. Right? He beats Callum Smith. Right? Why doesn't he fight Billy Joe? He fought him. We'll talk about him, but it was his first fight at 168. I have zero issues with it, and it was a great dominant performance against a solid fighter, really.
Georgie, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think around this time is when I started to really respect what Canelo was doing. Not that I didn't, but I was one of those guys like, I want to see the Charlo, and you don't really sit and realize like what someone is really doing, like their work, and this is where I really started to appreciate and understand what Canelo's plan was. You can't necessarily just jump right into everything right away, and it was a solid win. I was happy with it, and I was expecting to see. I think around this time is when we kind of got a glimpse of what Canelo's next moves are going to be.
Yes. After this fight, the lineal unified champion goes back down to 160 to unify with Jacobs, the next ranked highest competitor at that weight class. Unifies, then goes up to 175, knocks out Kovalev, right? And then we all know what happens next, right? He goes on. Did I forget Callum Smith? No, I did. Here we go. Goes to fight Callum Smith, right? The Ring Magazine champion. The lineal. He wasn't the lineal, but he was the Ring Magazine champion. This was the start of his undisputed run. D-Style, what do you have to say about this fight?
Great performance by Canelo. I think this is a fight where he was very masterful in taking away the quote unquote height advantage and arm length advantage and reach advantage by fighting him on the inside, right? And I think Canelo really showed how good he is as an inside fighter in this fight, and he utilized that long torso of Smith to his advantage. He punished him in this fight. He punished his bicep. I remember that. And tore it and messed it up. And it was, I think this is one of his best masterful performances, to be honest with you. And I think Callum Smith doesn't get enough credit for the level of fighter he was in his division, to be honest with you. But I guess that's what happens when you beat him in such dominating fashion. That's what Canelo did. You're muted.
Yes. And this was after taking a year off, right? Because he was in a lawsuit with Golden Boy.
That's
came
true.
Back, yeah. And took on a very formidable opponent
after people were bitching and complaining, why doesn't he fight the real WBA champion, right? And then he comes back and he beats the real WBA champion, right? He does that, but all of a sudden it didn't matter, right? All of a sudden, Canelo drained him. Canelo did this. Canelo did that. Like, the guy's a champion at this weight class. I mean, what do you want? You know what I mean? But yeah, it was a great win, and it was not Canelo's first choice. Canelo wanted Plant first. Kind of wanted to start off with Plant, but the only one that was ready to go and the only one that took the fight, was Smith.
Yes. Man, this was a one-sided beatdown. Georgie, this fight wasn't even that long ago, man. What do you remember?
It wasn't long ago. I mean, it was a good fight. I mean, and again, like these last couple guys, Smith, both Smiths, what they're doing after Canelo. So it shows that these guys are pretty solid competitors or solid fighters. Callum Smith nearly killed a guy too, like 2 fights ago, and he had a disgusting knockout. And I think they just won the purse bid for him and Better Beef. I think he's going to do pretty good against Better Beef. I do expect Better Beef to win, but I do think Callum Smith can be competitive and win some rounds, and Better Beef didn't look too great in the other fight. He got hit kind of a lot, but like he does, he wears the guys out and he gets some knockout. But I think Smith is going to do pretty good. And again, it just shows just how good Canelo is and how great Canelo is and what he does to his opponents. He took Smith's best attributes away from him: his height, his jab, and he just did what I always say when you fight somebody. Like, you're not going to always hit somebody in the face. Like, you got to hit what's there, what's available. And that's exactly what he did. He fucking gnawed that arm like a piranha, man. That shit was brutal. It was a good knockout. I mean, not knockout, I'm sorry. It went 12 rounds. It was a dominating performance.
Oh, yeah. And after this, we heard the rumblings. Well, we'd been hearing it for a while. Southpaws with a jab.
With movement.
He can move, right? Oh, it gives Canelo all kinds of problems. We heard it. He went for a unification with Billy Joe Saunders. D-Style, what do you remember about this fight?
I remember a lot of things about this fight. The one thing that stands out is that they were going to fight in a 20-by-20, which is standard size, right? But since Canelo's Canelo and a fighter in Billy Joe last minute decided to bitch that it was a small ring, for some reason, people were like, oh my God, Canelo wants to fight him in a small little ring and all this other dumb shit, right? When like the standard ring size used to be 18-by-18 back in the 80s. And at the time, a big ring was 20-by-20. Ray Leonard requested that against Hagler, right? And over time, for whatever reason, they decided to keep the 20-by-20 as a standard ring size. But what sticks out is that when Eddie Hearn went to Canelo, thinking it's going to be some type of big Montreal screw job type of issue with this, right? Canelo just said, give it to him. I don't care, right? He literally just said, what A side do you know in the history of boxing that just says, yeah, whatever, I'm going to knock him out anyway. I don't care, right? And they gave Billy Joe a little 22-by-22 because he wanted to use movement and his pivots and his boxing that I continue was going to give Canelo all types of problems, right? And then Canelo goes in there and he smashes the dude's face in. He literally concaved his face, right? Like his orbital bone cracked and was like concaved in him. That's what he did to Billy Joe Saunders. That's what the punch of Saul Canelo Alvarez did, which we cannot call an injury because it was caused by a punch. We cannot call. That's not some accident that happened. He didn't sprain his ankle. Hit him. There wasn't water in the mat, and he slipped and he hit his face. It was the punch that Canelo Alvarez hit. And what was epic about it, Canelo has such a good heart that when he saw his face concave like that, he stopped hitting him in the face and started just going to the body, right? And then when the bout ended, he goes back to his corner, and Eddie's trying to give him instructions, and he says, "It's over, Eddie. Ya se acabó la pelea. Le quebré le quebré la cara." Okay, he already knew the fight was over. He knew what was up. He saw his face. He saw the damage he did. If Canelo kept punching this dude right there, he could have killed this man. Like, he could have killed him. And so I have no issue with Billy Joe sitting in that corner and saying nothing to his corner, stopping that fight, because there ain't no way he could have continued fighting like that. None. So that's what I remember about this fight. He broke this dude's face. That's what he did. You want to be a monster? Try breaking the dude's face. Right? How about you do that if you want to be a monster?
Yep.
Go
He
do
set
that.
it up. Set it up, broke the dude's face, right? And he was pulling his punches after this. Great moment in Texas, right? Great stuff. Okay, obviously a good jab, right? And movement gives anybody problems, right? It's a stupid. Georgie, in the lead up to this, we weren't rolling together, man. How did you fight going? And what are your reflections on this particular fight?
I think this was Billy Joe Saunders' last fight. We haven't seen him since. You know, he got hit that hard that I guess he had to rethink his career. I don't think he wanted to go through that pain again, and it was brutal. I think all of us watching it live. I mean, I was here watching it, of course. I was like, wait, something don't look right on his face. You could see, like, you know, kind of wincing and kind of favoring it, and then goes into the corner, and you can see like it just didn't look right. It was nasty. But I do remember leading into this, and this is the fight that everybody was asking for. Like you said, slick southpaw, someone that could jab, someone that moves. You know, people calling Canelo a flat-footed fighter and this and that. And he just proved wrong. He proved everybody wrong, you know, and it shows too. He doesn't really give too much into the A side thing. And you know, there's so many things that Canelo does. You know, he gives up more money. He gave him this ring. And I thought it would have been a more competitive fight. I mean, it would have been nice to see exactly how much further this would have went, but just in kind of, again, typical Canelo fashion, he knew exactly who he had in front of him. He knew he had a mover, someone southpaw shooting from the southpaw stance, and he just pretty much walked him down. He dominated. He wasn't in any kind of danger. It wasn't like Billy Joe was outlanding or doing great things in there. It just showed how great Canelo was in this fight, and it was nasty, man. It was a brutal break. It was not just it was the cheek, orbital, the temple. Who knows what would have happened if he continued to mash that side of his face in.
Man, it was a great time to be a Canelo fan. Even though the haters, man, they started whining after for some damn reason. It's hard to understand why, man. Like, you know, Canelo's taking care of business. And as you go back and look at his career, like, he's been facing the people that we wanted him to see, right? And we don't have another British opponent. This was the last one, but he went to be undisputed. I mean, the guy's had a hell of a career so far.
I mean, yeah, I did. I mean, look, I don't understand what people don't see. I just don't. I think a lot of people feel like you just have to go against whoever the top name in boxing is because it's the thing to do or something. I don't know. That's one of the only things I could think of. But that there is I don't know. There's like a shaming that happens. Like if you give Canelo any type of credit, right? But like other fighters get credit, and they get credit for doing like a lot less. Like that's what's strange to me.
With no pressure.
Yeah, and look, don't get me wrong. Look, if you're the big name in the sport, right? There's a higher standard for you. I get that, right? I accept completely that a Ryder is a tune-up for Canelo, right? Where he wouldn't be a tune-up for other guys. He wouldn't, right? For Canelo, he is, though, because of where Canelo is, the standing in the sport. There's higher expectations for him. I get that, right? But I also am realistic, and I understand the circumstances, and I understand that, you know, it's there's a lot of things here like that I could touch on. So one of them is this. people that are complaining about this fight, okay, not everybody, but a large percentage of them, right? It really is like arrogant, snot-nosed, like what's the word I'm looking for? It'll come to me, but how privilege, arrogant, snot-nosed privilege is what this is, right? How privileged must you feel that you feel some type of way that Canelo's going to go fight in front of his people in Mexico when he hasn't done it like in 11 years? Like, what type of an asshole do you need to be for that to bother you when he's active? This is an active. He doesn't fight every 16 months like Errol Spence. By the way, Errol Spence gets to fight in his hometown all the time. All these American fighters from the U.S. get to fight in the U.S. all the time, right? All the time. Shakur just fought some Japanese dude in his hometown. Nobody bats an eye. I don't have an issue with it. But Canelo, first time in 11 years, look at everything he's accomplished, champion in 4 weight classes. Best resume in boxing. Undisputed 168 pounds. Is about to rematch the guy that beat him. But you're mad that he's going to go fight in front of his people? That is some arrogant, snot-nosed, privileged shit. Like, you can't just say, all right, you know what? Yeah, go do your thing, Canelo. We'll see you in September. You can't even like put it on hold for one fight. You can't even be like, okay, we'll talk about September after the fight. You can't even do that. It's not like he's not fighting some nobody. He's fighting a top 5 super middleweight on the planet. The guy who's fought more top 10 super middleweights than anybody. That's who he's fighting. And we got people complaining, right? And if that's brought up, oh, you're a fanboy because you're emotional about Canelo. Like no, it's just true. Notice how the merits of the arguments are never argued. Notice that really quickly. If somebody can't come back to you with points and merits, they're the emotional ones. They're projecting, okay? They don't like the dude. All the people complaining, no offense to all the dudes on Twitter. You dudes don't like Canelo. You tweet all day about Canelo, but you don't like him, right? Like, oh, well, Canelo should do this and that. You don't even like the dude. Why should he do anything? So he can't do anything for his people, but he's got to do something for you? Like, this is like, you got to be in a very privileged state to go around. And shame on Benavidez Sr. because, and Samson, no offense to them. I don't have anything against them. But, when you talk about Mexican people the way you do, indirectly, by saying things like, oh, Canelo, he's going to go fight in Mexico because, that's the only place that they could have, nobody wants to pay for the tickets over here. You know what I mean? Like what? Like, who the fuck do you think you are, dude? Canelo can't go fight in Mexico? Guess what? That gate in Guadalajara is still higher than the gate you deal with Plant, motherfucker. How about that? All right? Even in Guadalajara. All right? No, it doesn't matter where you fight, he sells more. Right? This is some dumb shit. Right? Oh, Samson, he's going to go fight in Mexico because nobody wants to see him fight in Las Vegas. And then the people just hear that and they agree with it. Like, oh, yeah, totally, Samson. That makes total sense. Are you shitting me? Everyone that's been in Vegas when Canelo fights can tell you that the atmosphere in Vegas when Canelo fights. Everybody knows the dude runs Vegas. Everybody knows this. The high rollers love Canelo. All right, like it's a high pro. 18 million at the gate is nothing to Canelo. He does that on the regular. 15 and up. 15 and up. $1 million gates. In Texas, he did almost 12 million against Billy Joe Saunders. Okay, go choke on that because you ain't doing that, Samson. And now with Benavidez. So you can't tell about there's a new sheriff in town and you're the new draw in Vegas when you ain't selling anywhere near that type of shit. Canelo did 18 million with almost 19 million at the gate against Plant. What you do? Anybody know that figure?
No.
I don't think it was that high. It took you a while to sell it out too, by the way. They still had tickets available when the Ryan Garcia tank fight sold out. They still had tickets for the NGM. So it is what it is. All right? This is not if you're agreeing with Samson, like if you got to be delusional to believe that Canelo is fighting in Mexico because nobody wants to buy his fights in Vegas. Okay,
Right.
you got to be a delusional idiot to believe that. Period. And I'm not going to apologize for saying that. You have to be delusional and stupid to believe that. You have to be, I repeat, delusional and stupid to believe that. And the reason he's fighting in Mexico, because he wants to fight in front of his people. He could have fought in the UK and made more money. Okay, Hearn said Los Angeles wanted to fight. Okay, like others somewhere in Texas wanted to fight, and he could have done the fight there, but he wanted to go back and he wanted to put on a show in the flesh for his people. If you can't just take a step back and say, you know what, I have no problem with that, especially when a motherfucker's active. And I'll say it one more time to you dudes. Errol Spence's fighting once every 16 months. Right? Chermel hasn't fought in over a year. Oh, he has an injury. Canelo had a fucking injury. And he's already back. But I got to hear about how Chermel can't fight because he has an injury. Hurry your ass back. Chermel hasn't fought in 700 days. I mean, it's whatever. But that's what I got.
I mean, I co-sign all of that. And if you just reflect and you look back on what Canelo's done, and we have young fighters now taking care of business, but it's hard to fight at that high level continuously and succeed, right? One good example would be who I'm a fan of, Teofimo Lopez, right? He beat Loma. We thought sky could be the limit for this dude, right? But now he's not looking so great. It's hard to perform at that very high level. If you look at what Canelo's actually accomplished throughout all those years, like he was taking on a lot of high-profile opponents, like at 22, 23, 24, gave us all the fights we wanted up to 28 to Triple G, right? Went undisputed finally, like we all wanted, right? Undisputed used to mean something. Nobody seems to care anymore, right? And there's all this pressure on Canelo to do exactly what the haters want him to do. Like, you need to do this, you need to do that. I don't see any pressure anywhere else for anybody, right? Even with Crawford Spence, right? Which is a fight that we all think is just old, right? And stale by now, right? The best I hear is like, oh, I don't talk about that fight anymore, right? Okay, like that excuses it. Like, where's the demand? Georgie, do you want to get in on this?
No, I mean it's all true. You know what I mean? Like if you're gonna try to hold one person to that standard, I mean you got to hold them all to a standard. You know what I mean? Not just because he's not your favorite fighter, it doesn't mean that he's not doing anything. I mean, just look exactly what he's doing, and just listening, sitting here, thinking about it. Usually, guys will fight if they haven't fought in their hometown or where they're from in a long time. They usually do it at the end of their career, and I feel like Canelo isn't at the end of his career yet, but I mean, you know, I think he wants to do it. He wants to do it for his people. He wants to show, you know, like let me give him a prime Canelo, a good opponent, a good showing. I think ringside seats are like $500. I don't know how true that is. Did you guys hear that? Like ringside was like 500 or something. Mm-hmm. They weren't very expensive, so it's, you know, and then I think they already, as far as like the viewing for people to be able to watch it on a network in Mexico, like they're making it available for everybody. So that goes to show that he's not, you know, that he's not doing this for no reason. Like he's doing this for the fans. He's the fights that he's just put on for his whole career. There's nothing you could say bad about the guy other than if you're just nitpicking at a career that doesn't make sense to you. Like if it doesn't make sense to you, then you know maybe boxing isn't the sport for you. And you know, you gotta, like I said, if they're gonna hold these standards to Canelo and expect him to fight this guy, that guy, you know, who has these other guys fought? Nobody's fought anything. So, I mean, it's an event. Anytime Canelo's name is is headline on the billboard. I think I saw Maestro I think it was like last week. Talk about how he was there for the Ryan Garcia and Tank event. He was there as well for a Canelo event. And he's like, look, man, you might think you saw a big crowd on TV. You're watching it, you think people are showing up to these Tank Davis and Canelo. Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia. Is like, you haven't seen nothing. Like you got to see the days before that fight. Like everybody's walking around with a Canelo hat, a Canelo shirt. There's Mexico flags. It's a big thing. And, you know, and Vegas is international. So not just Mexico and US, it's worldwide. Like Canelo is a worldwide name. He's a household name. And whether if you're a casual or a hardcore, like who's Canelo, who his name is. It's, I mean, again, like I can't sit here and say that. And I was a very huge fan, and again, like just over time, I've already respected what he's done, but like just sitting back and really dissecting the things that he's done, like it just makes you respect everything that he has done in his career, and not just that, but like his sport is kind of a standard. So you do see some of the younger guys, like you just named Teofimo, Shakur, Haney, like these guys I think they're kind of seeing what Canelo's doing, and it's a good thing. I think he's a great standard for a majority of these younger guys coming up.
I just want to really quick. Sampson's going around saying that I've seen several interviews where he's saying that Canelo Golovkin had to give away tickets, sell them 2 for 1 because there was no interest for the fight and this and that. Even though it did 18 million at the gate, by the way. Just think about that, 18 million. Like Plant versus Benavidez at 3 million, according to Keith Dydick. So I mean, what are we talking about here? Like really? Like, are we really comparing? Now, look, I'm not mad at him for saying it or nothing like that, but I think fans, media, content creators have to be more responsible with like just believing whatever you hear, like and have common sense. Like obviously he's going back to Mexico, one, because he can. Okay, I know a lot of people want to order Canelo. That's like a new thing now. People want to order these fighters around, and no, don't go to Mexico. I want you to stay here and fight killer after killer, the guys I want, right? And I still won't give you credit, even if you win, because that's the way it is now, right? But that is what it is. Look, it looks like I'm holding the Mexican flag.
Yeah, man, looks good. You know what? It is time to get excited for this fight because, like you guys both said, man, this fight's coming at the right time. Canelo is still on top. He's still the undisputed champion at 168 pounds. Great time for a homecoming, right? I'm excited, man. It is fight week. Let's see if Canelo can go 8-0 against British fighters. I'm sure that he will, right? No spoiler alert. I think we're all going to have Canelo winning, but how's he going to win? How do we see this fight? D-Style, I'd love to kick it back to you, man. Please give us a preview of this fight and how you see it going.
I think Canelo will start slow. It'll be methodical. And I think both guys are going to start slow, to be honest with you. Because of the way the entrances, the pageantry, and I don't think any one of them want to get caught cold. It's not smart to just go straight at Canelo. You have to warm up a little bit, and Canelo likes to start that way anyway. But I think as the rounds progress, like from rounds 1, 2, 3, you're going to see Canelo just dominate every round more and more. And I think by round 6, the body shots will take their toll. I think the counters are going to take their toll. I think Canelo's uppercut's going to make a comeback in this fight. And I think the overwhelmed Ryder gets stopped around the 6th or 7th round.
I like it, dude. Yes, the Canelo uppercut. I had a good time seeing that when I was watching these old fights. I think it's going to make a comeback too. Georgie, break this fight down, man. What do you see John Ryder doing well? We kind of compared him a little bit to Canelo in a way, but what skill set do you think that he can bring? And is it anything that Canelo won't be able to handle?
No, and I agree as well with D Styles. Both guys aren't fast starters, so it's gonna, they're both gonna tit for tat, feint a little bit, kind of fill each other out. I don't think neither one of them wants to make a mistake early on, especially Ryder, because I'm sure Ryder's hearing a lot of the negative out there, like, oh, you don't deserve to be in there. And not that Ryder has to listen to anybody, but I'm sure, he's going to want to put it all out there on the line and show that, like I do deserve to be here with Canelo. And again, I see it starting off a little slow. I see Ryder, maybe winning 2 out of the first 6, maybe 5 or 6 rounds, but, nothing dominating, just, kind of the inactivity of Canelo, just filling them out and trying to set up shots, traps, watching patterns of Ryder. He does fight a little bit with his hands down. He does move well. I will say that I do think Ryder does move pretty good. He is always in good position for defense and offense. He fights in and out. So I think eventually, I say about the 7th round, those body shots that Canelo's going to land is going to start to slow Ryder down. I think this fight will go a little bit further. I think it might go maybe 9. But I think Ryder will have a good showing, but it's going to be a pretty much a dominating performance by Canelo, with of course Ryder showing why he deserves to be in there with Canelo. I say body shot is going to probably end this fight. You're on mute.
Yes, a classic Canelo body shot KO. That's how I see it as well. I'll tell you this, man. I did like going back and watching Ryder's style. He's somebody who likes to go and crash the pocket at times. He likes to dictate a pace. I'll be curious to see if he tries to lead. You have to have some guts to try to lead on Canelo. On top of that, too, I think it plays into Canelo's style. He's the natural counterpuncher, and this will give him the opportunity to have a dude come in on him, right? Another thing is I do think that Ryder likes to wrestle a lot and try to use his physical strength and test it out against the other opponent. Now, Canelo has been tested as far as physical strength goes recently. I thought Caleb Plant tested him out as far as that goes. But these guys are pretty close to the same size. But I think that Ryder's going to find that it's not going to be so easy to go in there, do his work, and then tie up. Also, Ryder likes to fight on the inside, okay? Now, I can't think of a fighter in recent history that, would try to fight on the inside with Canelo. And that's going to be a recipe for disaster as long as Canelo is still Canelo. D-Style, let me ask you something, brother. Okay, now, say you were like a Canelo hater, right? And there are Canelo haters out there. And what they tend to do is they tend to go, hey, and if you want to beat Canelo, this is what this fighter needs to do, okay? He really needs to do these things, okay? Now, if you were advising Ryder on how to beat Canelo, what advice would you give him going into this fight?
Well, first of all, man, we got to do is not take the payment and let this dude just beat you up, because that's what they all do. They just throw the fight for him, and you know what he is? He's a fraud, man. That's what he is. Like that's what they would say. I mean, let me take it a different direction. Let me take it from someone who wants Ryder to win, but I respect Canelo because that's the best way to beat Canelo. You have to know what's in front of you, right? What I would tell Ryder is first things first. Don't do anything crazy early. Like don't get caught with something crazy, because then you're not going to be able to come back. Just try to stay in the fight for the first 3-4 rounds. Right, that's number one. Even if you lose a round, just stay in the fight. Okay, and then once you get the motor running, you're going to have to take chances, and you're going to have to I would definitely tell him to use a jab and hope that Canelo isn't going to be using the jab much. Okay. I would tell him to tuck in the elbows and get ready to block body shots with the elbows and hope Canelo kind of maybe breaks his wrist again. And I would also tell him to not stay around too long. So land 1 or 2 punches, get out of the pocket, and then dart back in. Right. I mean, that's most guys that have had decent showings with Canelo don't stay around the pocket that long, right? It's just from a Jacobs or a Cotto. Like they had a very methodical approach to how they boxed Canelo. They still lost, but at some point, if we're behind after the 6th, 7th round, if you want to win, you're gonna have to sell out. You're gonna have to go for it, which means you'll probably get knocked out. You're going to have to go for it. You're going to have to force the action, try to force some exchanges, and hope that one of those shots hurts Canelo. And he might pull it off or something, or he might land something that turns the fight around. That's probably his best shot, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah. And Little Penny here wants to know if the cartels have been informed not to do any business this weekend. Man, you guys have been going nuts in the chat, man. I've been reading some of these comments. You guys are going all over the damn place. Well, hopefully they treat it like a wedding down in Mexico where, hey, you got to put the beefs aside if you're going to show up to the village wedding, right? And everybody's got to be on their best behavior. That's what I'm hoping will go down at this homecoming fight in Guadalajara. But you're right, man. I think that Ryder will have to take it to Canelo. Okay, Georgie, what do you think? What's the game plan for Ryder here? For
Ryder, I think what he would have to do is pick his spots, his offense, in and out. He's gonna have to land in between Canelo's shots. Canelo loves his hooks. He does throw good jabs, but he loves his hooks to the body. He likes his left hook, right hook to the top. So I would say he would have to be a little bit shorter with his punches. I would tell him, jab. Of course, jab is always key because it does set up your offense, and it could also be your defense. So he's gonna have to throw his jab from different areas. different speeds. He's gonna have to stick the jab to the stomach, tie up a little bit. And anytime Canelo tries to throw his combinations, I would say to maybe just try to smother him a little, because Canelo, when he does land his shots or when he does throw punches, like he's very, I guess you could say stationary, but he's planted. I guess when he's throwing his shots, because they are powerful, like he's more planted. So when he's throwing, I would say with your guard, tuck your elbows a little bit to your body and try to push your way in and smother Canelo. Kind of like what Bivol did. Like Bivol didn't give Canelo too much of a chance to extend on those punches, so he would, tuck his elbows in, tuck his chin, and I do believe Ryder's tough enough. I think Ryder's tough enough to get in there and let Canelo, kind of tee off a little. And they always say the ones that hurt the most are the punches that you don't see. He's definitely going to have to keep his eyes up, chin down, elbows tight to the body, and he's just going to have to hope that as the fight goes on, that he's able to withstand those body shots, and make Canelo feel his punches. But it is definitely gonna be tough. He's definitely gonna have to be tough, man. That's number one. I think fighting Canelo, the guys that had the best success, I feel like they have all had like a mentality in there. Like they had a strong mentality. They weren't intimidated. And I think that's going to be first and foremost, is you're gonna have to instill something in him to make him think, you know what, you can't be intimidated. Like you've been in there with tougher guys. You're gonna have to kind of just, talk him up a little bit, try to get the mental game strong as well as the physical and the game plan. But I think his game plan would have to be able to withstand those hooks to the body, be shorter with the punches, and smother Canelo a little bit, and hope that as the fight progresses, that he's already banked enough rounds and that he's able to withstand Canelo's, power shots, that he's done enough to win rounds, because he's not knocking Canelo out. He's definitely not going to knock Canelo out or hurt him, but, it's boxing and anything can happen. But if he's going to have a chance, he's going to have to bank some early rounds on, because he's going to have to expect the Canelo in the middle to late, that Canelo's going to come on strong, and hopefully he can make it to the 12th.
Man, great stuff, guys. The only thing I'd like to add to that, too, is I do think that Ryder has a pretty decent tank. So, yes, I do think that he should start off slow, get used to Canelo's rhythm if he can, find out about that power early if he can, right? If he's lucky, Canelo might tire, right? There's an open question as to if Canelo is still the same Canelo. Some people have seen some slippage. D-Style, tell me about Canelo's current form. I'd like to know if you think that Canelo's still close to prime. What are your thoughts?
I still think Canelo's in his prime. I think people are reading too much into the Bivol loss. He did beat Triple G. No one else is beating Triple G. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. He looked pretty good against Murata. I mean, I get he moved up and all, but and he fought Triple G with an injury. So it's extremely difficult to fight with an injury like that. A wrist, dude, like that's extremely difficult to fight that way. That's the only reason he wasn't throwing shots at the body against Golovkin, right? My question for Canelo is not if he's able to do it. Like that's not my question is, will the injury come back? Will it be a nagging injury that he's going to be dealing with? That's my main concern. If the injury is a non-factor, he's going to destroy Ryder. If the injury comes back, I mean, he'll still pull off the win. He might not look amazing, but he'll pull off the win. And I don't know. At that point, I'll change my mind on where I see Canelo. But I honestly think he'll be fine. I think he's saying his wrist is better than ever. I believe him, to be honest. I don't see why he would lie about that. I think he was honest when he said my wrist wasn't that good for about 3-4 fights, and I had to get it taken care of. He took his time off. He's coming back, I think, and he's ready to go. I still think we have, to be honest with you, about 3-4 years of Canelo for sure.
Very nice. I'll tell you this. I went back and rewatched Canelo versus Triple G3, amongst other fights, right? But yes, I think a little. We all made a little bit too much of if Canelo's past peak. He actually looked pretty good in that fight. Actually, that fight was entertaining. I think we all expected a little bit too much. If you go back and watch that fight and then compare that fight to a lot of other just recent fights, it was actually really good. I think we all just wanted that war from the second fight. I'm not saying that fight was great, but I thought it was a good, entertaining fight. I think that Canelo also knew that he really couldn't knock out Triple G, who, like D-Style said, is still Triple G, right? They took it to a decision together. The fight was what it was. It was a one-sided fight. definitely a one-sided fight. And yes, people do make too much of the Bivol loss. Canelo continues to challenge himself. Now, I want to know what you think, Georgie. Any thoughts on this before I go to the next subject?
Yeah, no. I mean, I know me and you've gone on the record, Chicano, to say, you know, it seems like there's a little bit of slippage, but I do like to give guys benefit of the doubts, especially with the injury. But you really don't know until we see from this fight moving forward exactly to see where Canelo is at, and just look at and like I like a comparison I always try to give is like a Pacquiao. Like Pacquiao was already out of his prime, like the last couple fights, but he was still good enough to beat top contenders. And that's not saying that's going to be Canelo, but you know, that's just how great Canelo is. Like even on a decline still, like he's still good enough to beat anybody top in that division or anywhere he goes. So I guess I was a little bit into reading into the Bivol. I didn't go back and watch the Triple G and Canelo. I think we all had an expectation that from what we saw with Triple G and Murata, that a Canelo was going to be able to get Triple G out of there. I think we had an expectation, and I had an expectation. I was expecting to see Canelo get a stoppage. I think everybody had Canelo stopping Triple G, at least to the body. And when it didn't happen, it's kind of like when someone tells you about a movie, like, oh, this is the greatest movie ever. You go watch it and you're like, it was okay. It wasn't too bad. And then you rewatch it and you're like, actually, you know what? I didn't have that expectation the second time. And it seemed to be better. I got to understand it. There was parts that I missed, just like I'm sure you missed some of the stuff in the trilogy fight that you've seen with Canelo and Triple G. But it's hard to really say. I think we'll be able to answer those moving forward from this Ryder fight to see where Canelo is and just how well his wrist is going to hold up, because if you ever been an athlete and you've ever had an injury that you keep re-injuring, you know, it's hard not to think about it in the back of your mind, like, okay, my ankle or my knee, you know, how strong is my wrist going to hold up? Am I going to be able to, you know, throw those left hooks to the body? Am I going to be able to jab it how I want to jab? And I think once he gets through this fight, no injury, I think he's going to be able to say, you know what, I could go hard with this.
All right. And I want to give a shout out to Black and Brown Boxing, who's in the house. Great stuff, Georgie. Great stuff, D-Style. And look at little Penny over here. Somehow found a way to bring up Pacquiao. Man. Well, you know what? Pacquiao he was a special fighter, just like Canelo is a special fighter. It's very hard to continue to fight at a very high level for such a long time, right? So I want to close out with this, gentlemen. Now, one thing that's good about this fight is, you know, it's going to get the taste out of our mouth out of how Ryan Garcia conducted himself, okay? But something else that came out of that fight was this idea that now Tank Davis is the face of boxing, okay? Disa, I want to start with you. Like, tell me, like, what's your definition of what the face of boxing is to you? And what are your thoughts on Tank Davis being the new face of boxing? And do you think there's any pressure on Canelo to succeed in the pay-per-view box office this weekend?
I mean, look, I'll put it this way, all right? There's the bar, right? Well, Canelo's obviously the bar, because that's who, like, people talk about whenever they talk about the face of boxing, right? So this whole thing, right? Your personal face of boxing is going to be whoever you want the face of boxing to be. Let me just get that out of the way really quick, right? But if you're objective and you really look at it, right? I mean, Canelo's been doing this shit for a decade, bro. Like, Canelo's been about that life. Like, Canelo's been about that pay-per-view life. Canelo's done not one, not two, but three pay-per-views at over 1 million buys. He's done about 2 others close to 1 million, right? And he stayed away from pay-per-view because of the Zone app for about 3 years. So like, just think about all that. But I have to keep hearing things like, is he the face of boxing? Why? Because he beat Ryan Garcia? If Canelo fights Jake Paul, they'll do over 1 million buys. Would that make him the face of boxing? Will you be content with that?
Right.
Everything matters about, yes, of course, how popular you are, what you generate. Okay, cool. I agree with all that. But also what you do. What do people say about Tank? Well, he hasn't really fought anybody. He hasn't fought a top 5 guy. Like Pedraza, who everybody beats. Wow. Ryan, who hasn't really fought anybody himself. Wow. That's who you fought? That's it? A little Santa Cruz? Yeah, Canelo has one of those. Amir Khan. Okay, cool. Who else you got? You got anybody else? Like, I mean, I just don't understand, like, where people are coming from. Because Canelo has chips on both sides of the table. The popularity chips, right? He's got more social media followers than Ryan Garcia, right? If that matters to you. And he's got more accolades. 4-division world champion. Undisputed. And not undisputed because he just fought some Joe Schmo. Undisputed because he went at all the undefeated champions and beat them one by one. Okay, took their O and took the strap. That's what Canelo did. And then, but I gotta keep hearing about but Tank. Oh yeah, there's a new sheriff in town. You know what sheriffs do? They run the town, right? So if you're gonna be a sheriff, then there's a guy called Devin Haney over there in Lomachenko. They're about to fight. Go show them you're the sheriff of 135, right? You don't just become the sheriff because you beat, but it was a popular fight. Yeah, guess what? KSI and Jake Paul could probably do 1 million buys. What does that even mean? McGregor did 4 million with Mayweather. Does that mean McGregor is one of the faces of boxing? Yes, popularity matters. Yes, what you sell matters. Yes, pay-per-view matters. But it's an equation. You have to add the plus sign. Plus your accomplishments. Plus who the fuck you fought. But let me tell you right now, Brad Pitt and Matthew McConaughey had beef. And they had a boxing match. They do over 1 million buys too. What does that even mean? So yes, you got to be big and popular, but you also there's a plus. Plus, you have to have the accomplishments that come with it. That matters. There's something to that matters. If that doesn't matter to you, if the level of opposition doesn't matter to you, I don't know what does. First of all, I don't know one person that was going around saying this fight's going to do 1 million buys. I don't know one person. But now all of a sudden it's got to do 1 million. Like why? Since when do tune-ups do 1 million buys? Since when? Mayweather did 400,000 against Andre Berto. So how about this? If he could do that here, that's pretty impressive to me. I think he'll do about 300,000 to 400,000 fighting a dude that nobody knows in a fight that they say they don't want to watch, right? It's whatever, okay? But that's all I'm saying. If you want to be the face of boxing, you got to do face of boxing shit. So I'm not even going to argue with the Tank fans. Okay, so go fight one of the top dudes now. Good. Maybe now, okay, you'll stop fucking picking up the, the fucking spit that Canelo puts in the fucking ground, okay? The dudes get on their knees, licking off his spit from the ground, like, oh, Canelo, you ain't shit. That's what they do, okay? So I don't give a fuck what people got to say about any of that, all right? Saul Canelo Alvarez, right now, is clearly far and away the face of boxing. It's a ridiculous debate to even have, right? But guess what? Since people don't like Canelo, dudes that have never cared about the business, all of a sudden care about the business, right? Oh, well, if Canelo doesn't do 1 million, I think Tank Davis is the face. Okay, right, good. Okay, cool. That's what you value over everything. Both things matter. What you sell, what you generate, plus your pound-for-pound status in the sport and your accomplishments. Those things matter too, all right? Because just to give you one more example, so I heard that Jake Paul, right, versus, which was it, Logan Paul versus Floyd, did over 1 million. Okay, so is Logan Paul, like, should we say that he's one of the faces of boxing?
Right.
I mean, this is crazy, bro. If KSI were to fight Jake Paul, it probably does over 1 million, right? Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury probably sold more than any Terence Crawford fighter. You're going to say that Tommy Fury in the face rankings is above Terence Crawford? Are you going to be that stupid and say something like that? So Tank has a ways to go, bro. For a start, go Go win a national world title, a legitimate one at 135, and then maybe I'll consider the conversation. Till then, it didn't even be a conversation to me.
Well said. This new sheriff in town. Well, if there was a new sheriff in town, that sheriff would be fighting this weekend, not 2 weeks ago, right? Look at Mayweather. Cinco de Mayweather. It's not Cinco de Davis weather, right? They know what's up, dude. They know who owns the date. If you're the face of boxing, you get May, you get September, if you so choose. If you're not being hung up by other stupid things. Georgie, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, out of everything these styles just said to me, what matters the most and what would give you the title face of boxing is accomplishments, right? Like, what have you accomplished? Like, I mean, okay, yeah, he's got popularity, and I think that's about it. And that's about it. It's just the popularity. So I mean, he's on his way. He's definitely on his way, but he's not the face of boxing. He's definitely he hasn't even scratched the surface of what Canelo has done. Yeah, Canelo has been a professional longer and younger, and he's accomplished more before he even hit his 30s. So, yeah, the face of boxing, it's not just a popularity contest. It's your resume, it's your belts, and being, again, it's just, to me, in one word, it's accomplishments, and Tank isn't even there yet. But the only way that this is going to the only way he's going to be able to pull this off with accomplishments or get himself to be the face of boxing is definitely, he's got to fight the guys out there. There's 2 names already, right? There's Haney and there's Shakur. Now I would say, though, if they did fight, would it do $1 million? They probably wouldn't do $1 million, and it's not because they didn't sell. It's just these guys aren't quite household names quite yet. I think he caught lightning in the bottle with Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia being very popular. Ryan Garcia has been calling them out for years. So I think that's kind of what got this to 1.2 million, or even if it's 900,000, whatever. I mean, I will say, yeah, that coming away from the Tank and coming away from the Garcia fight, I do see a good majority of these Ryan Garcia fans turning into Tank, or even if they weren't Tank. I mean, even if they weren't Ryan Garcia fans, it was a big enough event that casuals even tuned in. So, again, it comes with the popularity, and as these casuals come on to learn about boxing, they'll see what it takes, or what it is that gives you the name of the title face of boxing. It's not just a name and you beat the most popular guy. Like, it's accolades, it's the belts, it's unifications. And the argument nowadays is, oh, well, belts don't count. That's not necessarily true, because at the end of the day, we're not going to say, hey, you know what, this guy was an all-time great because he was popular. No, it was like he was an all-time great because, yeah, he was popular. He won belts. He continued to prove himself. He continued to test himself, and that's what Canelo's doing. He's continuing to prove himself that he is still going to continue to be the face of boxing. And with so much of that's going on, stealing, piracy, like, he's still continuing to put out a lot of these, still continue to put out great numbers. So, I mean, I'm not ready to take that off of Canelo quite yet, or I don't see it happening anytime soon. I mean, if anybody that's second in running, it could be Tank Davis, but there's still much more that he's got to accomplish.
Definitely. Hey, Georgie, you got about another 20 minutes. I was thinking about dropping the link for. All right, let's get Lil Gunny up in here and see what this guy has to say, man. As long as he doesn't talk about Pacquiao, that's the one rule, Lil Gunny. You come on here, not talking about Pacquiao. We're here to talk about Saul Canelo Alvarez. Also, I want to give a thank you to D-Style, who came and kicked it with us, man. Great breakdowns, dude. And you know what? I'm feeling good. I'm celebratory. Like, it's nice to throw shade at, like, the haters, but my main thing is, like, it's just been a great ride in general. We're looking at the face of boxing. We're looking at the only legend to come out of the last generation. He's an all-time great. He's a future Hall of Famer, and I'm enjoying the ride. I'm enjoying the homecoming. You know what I'm saying? Georgie, what are you cooking up this weekend? Or are you working? What's the deal?
Oh
with you?
yeah. Okay. So I do work. I just came off having a couple of days off, so I do go back into work tomorrow days. And even if I was working nights, I mean, everybody knows when there's a fight. Like there's maybe two guys at my work when it comes to boxing and MMA. Like I'm always getting asked, or someone calls me on the intercom like, "Hey George, come over for a couple minutes." And it's not even work related. It's always like, hey man, what's going on? Should I bet? Should I do this? Should I do that? And I'll tell you this, I don't have a good run at the MMA bets. But it's fine. Like either way, like I still get people intrigued and excited about events and fights. And again, if I was working nights, I mean, we would somehow tune into the fight, even if I was at work. But I will be watching it. I'm watching it on the way home. It is the zone, so I'll be able to order this pay-per-view.
Very nice.
What's
And I'll
up,
be
Lil Penny?
ordering it too. What's happening, Little Penny? How you doing, man?
What's up, bro? How's it
All right,
going?
so good, man. So Little Penny, when you order these fights, you're in New Zealand. So what time is it when you're generally watching the main event of a
After
pay-per-view?
lunch. After lunch. Around 3 o'clock, 3, 4 o'clock.
Hey, that's pretty decent, bro. Better than the UK
Yeah.
fans, that's for sure. 3, 4 o'clock. You just got to make sure that you have your weekend off. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's on a Sunday rather than a Saturday.
So the next day. That's still
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
sweet, man. End of the
Yeah.
week. So, Lil Penny, what's happening, man? Like, how do you see this fight going? Anything that you want to say, bro? You guys were having a great time in the chat. Like, what are your thoughts? If you want to say anything, man, speak your mind.
Oh, I just want to say something about the face of boxing bit. I do think that Tank has a case because I was expecting about 750 pay-per-view, but it did 1.2 million. But I also want to delve in about that 1.2 million because from my understanding, it's a worldwide pay-per-view, right? So meaning that the Canelo, what's his name? Canelo. Who's that last Canelo's fight again that did 800,000? Georgie?
I would say Caleb Plant, right? Was the last...
Plant, right? So that's only North America, right? That 800,000. So if you add in worldwide pay-per-views, so that Canelo fight probably did 1.2 million as well. So you know what I mean? So I think that's what people don't get. That 1.2 million by Tank is worldwide pay-per-view. It's not just North America. You know what I mean? So
yeah, exactly.
I think that people gotta take that into perspective as well.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
another thing. Yeah, another thing too, Lil Penny. From my understanding, is this was available through the Zone Europe. And over there it was free, so they didn't really have to buy pay-per-view. And it was two numbers. It was Showtime and the Zone, so it was those two numbers combined.
Yeah. But I do think Tank has a case. I mean, those are pretty good numbers. I mean, not only him, only Tank, and really Canelo are doing those type of numbers. But I hear a lot of Canelo detractors. They're saying that, well, Canelo hasn't done 1 million pay-per-view buys since the Triple G rematch. I think that was the last time. So they're saying that Canelo's reign as the face of boxing is over. But the thing is, if he fights Bivol, that could do way over 1.2 million. I think Benavidez and Charlo as well. I think that could do 1 million pay-per-view buys easy. So, and there's multiple faces of boxing either, like Mayweather, Pacquiao. They were faces of boxing. De La Hoya, Tyson in the early 2000s, late 1990s. So it's not just one. And also, Tank's got to do multiple 1 million pay-per-view buys. He can't just do 1 million and then drop to 300,000 as usually does and say he's the face of boxing.
Exactly. Like, what's the metric? Like, yeah, I mean, is he the face of boxing for a calendar year? That's the thing. There was no solid definition, but now people want to run on and on top of that too, bro, like it seems to me like based on the new information coming in that they didn't quite crack 1 million, right? So it's not as sexy of a number. That's what I'm hearing, but I also don't care that much, bro. Like, okay, it is good for boxing that fight did well, but like, I think people are making way too much of this, dude.
But you kind of, I saw that 1.2 million figure from boxingscene.com, and they're owned by Paramount, and Paramount is a listed company. So boxingscene.com has to publish numbers that are facts, because if they don't, they'll, I don't know who is the Securities Commission in America, they'll get into trouble. So I do believe that 1.2 million is real.
Fine.
Sorry?
No, I was saying fine. I was just messing around. No, that's fine. That's
However,
fine.
I do think also just to the defense of Tank, to be the face of boxing, I don't think you have to be the best. I think you have to be commercially be the best. Like I remember, like De La Hoya in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, when he was clearly the face of boxing because Tyson retired. He wasn't the best because at that time Roy Jones was still the best. So you don't have to be the best. You just have to do your numbers. Also, Forbes just came out with the list of top 10 richest athletes in the world. I think Canelo was number 9. I didn't see Tank.
5.
Was it 5 or whatever? Yeah,
I
Tank
think he's
wasn't
up
there. Tank wasn't there. He's not even close to being there. He's probably not even in the top 50.
No. Puro Sur. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Penny.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yep. No, go. Puro Sur.
Puro Sur, welcome, man. How you doing, brother?
Oh, what's going on, fellas? I just thought I'd jump on and say what's up. What's going on, man?
What's
you guys
up, brother?
stoked for the fight or what?
Fuck yeah, man. Dude, I'm chilling. I'm feeling good. It's fight week. I'm sure you've been hearing all the hate too. But you know what? It doesn't kill our shine, man. How you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't stop for Canelo. You know, I mean, that's how it's been. You know, before I've been on YouTube. You know, it is what it is, bro. You know, but yeah, I mean, you know, I'm looking forward to the fight. I think Ryder is actually not a bad opponent. You know, I actually think he might surprise some few people. You know, I still I think Canelo's gonna get it done, knock him out. But yeah, man, I'm glad that he you know, he went back to Mexico. You know, it's like I could just imagine the feeling. You know, like last time he fought there, he was fighting with like Ryan Rhodes, and then now coming back, it's like, you know, he probably couldn't even imagine it back when he first left home.
Dude, it's the perfect timing for it, bro.
Yeah,
I agree.
However,
I agree that it is perfect timing.
I would have liked this fight to be in England at least, because at least now Ryder has a little bit of chance. But in Guadalajara, man, he's got no chance. He's got no chance. Like, you know, I'm a Canelo fan, right? But I do think this is a tune-up fight. I do think he'll knock him out, like early, even probably.
But you think Canelo's going to start 3 rounds ahead? Is that what you're saying, Little Penny?
No. I'm just saying he just, like, if you put it in England, if this fight was in England, I think the pay-per-views will be better. Because at least Ryder has a little bit of a chance of winning, just in case they rob Canelo in England. You know, if it makes to the distance, which I don't think he will. But you know, but I'm glad that, look, I'm happy that Canelo did fight in Mexico in his prime, because this is something that Pacquiao did not do. He did not fight in Philippines when in his prime. He always fought in USA or in Macau. So I'm glad that Canelo did that. Also, I'm surprised that this fight is actually in Guadalajara. I would have thought that he would have had it in Mexico City at Azteca Stadium or something like that. Like,
it's the homecoming. Okay, so when Pacquiao fought, was that when he didn't have Roach? That one? What's that one fight you're talking about? Was that the Macau fight? He fought. What's that guy's name? He fought once, like overseas.
Matisse. That was in Malaysia.
Oh, okay.
Matisse,
okay.
Yeah.
Man, I told you not to bring up Pacquiao, Little Penny, and there you go, dude. You did it.
Hey, by the way, is Canelo getting under the table like money for this fight? Because I'm surprised that this fight is in Guadalajara. I would have thought it was in Mexico City, because that fight would have done probably double the gate, because the capacity is 50,000, right, in Guadalajara, right?
Yeah, I think it's like 60.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Well, the capacity for a boxing match in Azteca is double that.
But it's not a homecoming, bro. That's the thing. He's coming home to Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico. And, bro, you know what? Good for the Mexicans, bro. They made the tickets cheap. They're giving away like 8,000 tickets. Good. Like, to them, this is like the best athlete to ever come out of Guadalajara, right?
Yeah.
The best athlete to ever come out. To them, it's going to be like their minds are going to be blown to see Canelo.
Like a fiesta.
Like that. Yeah, that crowd. Everybody's they're probably so fucking pumped right now for this fight this coming this weekend. They're probably just fucking beside themselves, man.
Yeah, it goes to show he's doing it obviously for the fans, right? I mean, he's, like you said, he bought 8,000 tickets. I think, you know, ringside, I thought I heard $500. I don't know what that equates to in pesos, but I mean, that's still great. I mean, it's homecoming, like you said, he's from there. I think that could also play into maybe why they didn't do it in Mexico City, because you know that altitude, right? It's pretty brutal there. I mean, maybe, you know what I mean, just conserve the energy a little bit. There might be little odds and ends of why they did it away from Mexico City.
The smog, yeah.
That's true.
It's a lot safer in Mexico City too, right? From a tourist point of view, I think people would rather probably visit Mexico City than Guadalajara, right? From a tourist point of view.
I think Guadalajara's safer. I think it's one of the
Is it?
safest cities right now. Yeah, Guadalajara, Monterrey.
Really? Can you fly directly into Guadalajara?
Yes, you can.
Cool. Well, it crossed my mind. I'm a little bit closer to Mexico than I used to be. I'm over here in Tucson with Georgie. Right now, I was sitting there thinking, I was like, shit, I could maybe fly to Mexico. Then I thought, nah, man, I'm overthinking. Like, I don't have the time to be thinking about how I can make this trip happen. Although it would be cheaper. I see tickets for resale on like Twitter. It's not that expensive to get in the house because these tickets are cheap, but you just got to go to Guadalajara to do it.
Yeah. I wanted to go to this fight, but it didn't happen. It is what it is. But yeah, that'd have been cool.
So what's your
Man, okay.
prediction, Puro Sur? I'm sure it's a Canelo win, but how do you see him winning?
I think he'll knock him out. I'm thinking maybe mid to late round stoppage, maybe between like 7 and 9, something like that. But depending how much Ryder wants it. I mean, I disagree if it was in Mexico, if it was in England. I think Ryder has the same shot he would have here or there. Yeah. I mean, if Ryder really wants it, if he really wants to try to pull the upset, I can see it going decision.
Yeah, dude. And you know what? You're right, Puro Sur. Ryder is a formidable opponent, man. I think so too. And to add to what Puro Sur had to say, like we just did a controversial rescore of Smith versus Ryder, and it's like, well, Ryder pulled that one out, but they kept it on Smith, right? They gave Smith the win when he didn't deserve it, in our opinion. Certified robbery, did not deserve it. So what? Because he's the cash cow. Like if you're the cash cow and you go to England, they're gonna reward you. I mean, I doubt. I mean, and it's not gonna happen anyways, dude. Like Ryder is a good opponent, but he's not gonna beat Canelo. This is one of those fights where I'm not worried about it. I get to relax, get to put my carne asada on, right? I don't have to have that like nervous energy that you feel when your guy's going up against a real opponent. I felt that against Bivol, but I don't feel that here. Although I do think Ryder is underrated. He's very solid.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Canelo will fight Bivol in September. I'm hoping it will be at 168, but knowing Canelo, he'll probably fight him at 175 just to prove to people. I don't think Canelo can beat Bivol at 175. However, I do think he'll beat him at 168. That's why I want that fight to be at 168 so he can win. And then the trilogy maybe at a catch weight at 170, but no rehydration clause like what Tank's doing.
Canelo can make adjustments against Bivol, man. I'm telling you. Puro Sur, how many rounds did you give Canelo in that fight?
5.
You know what? I'll tell you this, dude. I went back and I watched the fight because I had Canelo winning some early rounds. I gave him about 4, right? But I know a lot of people who don't like Canelo who gave Canelo round 9. I went back and just a little bit of a spot check. Yeah, dude, he won round 9, right? I mean, like it wasn't like this complete. I mean, yes, Bivol won the fight, but it wasn't like a beatdown or anything.
Yeah,
people are making way too much of it, in my opinion.
Yeah. I know those people who are saying that, and I disagree. I think Canelo was in the fight. But I did think Bivol won 8-4 or something like that.
Yeah, that's about how I had it.
Yeah, that was my original score, 8-4.
I just think Bivol is too big for him at 175, man. And Bivol throws punches, and those punches, like for Canelo, they hurt because he's not a true lightweight, right? Whereas at 168, I think Bivol's punches won't hurt as much, and Canelo will be able to. I'm not saying he can walk him down, but he'll be able to at least fire back when Bivol is also punching. I think he can beat Bivol at 168. I really do. I think he can beat him.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bivol showed what it does take to beat a Canelo. Like, not just skill, but like you got to also be tough and be mentally tough. And I think that's what it was for Bivol. He wasn't intimidated. He went in there. He knew what to expect. He took Canelo's best shots. Yes. He said he felt him on the arm. He felt him on the body, but he was able to withstand that and to be able to fire back. And like I get the breakdown. Like if Ryder had a chance, he's got to be able to get in and out, smother Canelo a little bit. Because Canelo he's very planted when he's landing his shots. And when he was trying to do that against Bivol, like Bivol either smothered him or he got out of the way. So it would be I think Canelo's best chances are at 168, but I still think it's gonna be a very competitive fight.
But Georgie, just to be fair, Canelo went up to Bivol's weight class to fight him, right?
Yeah.
So it's not that far-fetched. And Canelo was the A-side, right? It was the A-side, clear A-side, right? Mm-hmm. And still in the rematch, Canelo will still be the A-side. It's not too far-fetched to now ask Bivol, okay, you come to my weight class now. I went to your weight class. Now you come to my weight class, right? And there's a lot of treasure to be won here, 168, because Canelo is undisputed. right?
Yeah,
He's got
exactly.
4 belts, whereas Bivol has only got 1 belt at 175. So you come down to my weight. Let's see what you can do at 168. And he has said, Bivol has said he can make 168. So let's make it fair. I went to your weight class. You beat me, fine. Now you come to my weight class and see what you can do.
Yeah,
I think
but
I
yeah,
think it's too
exactly.
not that far fetched to be. I
No,
don't know
yeah,
why
Bivol's
everyone's
actually, yeah, Bivol's the one that's actually he's the one asking for the fight at 168 as well. So I do. That's what I'm saying. I would love to, or I'd rather see it at 168 than 175.
Right. Dude, when Canelo was pump faking in the plant negotiations, Bivol being interviewed said like, "Oh, I can make 168. Like we're in negotiations. I'm just saying yes to whatever he says." Like and on top of that too, there's something for him to make an undisputed run. Like undisputed still means something. That's a lot of titles. That's a big accomplishment, especially if you can make the weight. But I mean, ultimately, I would rather have Canelo face somebody else in September. Although I do think his chances are better than some people are saying. Like uh, and I'm not necessarily concerned about Bivol's power. He has power, but Canelo's not going to get knocked out by Bivol. That's what I think.
Yeah, and
he's
this is
got
a
to
be
avenge that loss, dude. He's
yeah,
got to avenge it.
and
Gonna
at
try.
168, Canelo has something to get up for, right? Like he's got to defend those bouts. He's got to prove that he's the best at 168. So he's not gonna just go in there and perform. He's gonna like perform his hardest. He wants to prove that he can beat Bivol. So there's a lot of writing on there.
I think Canelo is cut from the same cloth as the guys that were like De La Hoya and Chavez Sr. and Tyson and Pacquiao and those sort of guys. That's the reason why I think he will avenge this loss. I don't think he will go to the Benavidez fight and get the money. A lot of fighters would probably do that, like probably young fighters nowadays. I just think that Canelo, because when he first fought Bivol, he probably, if he wasn't cut from that cloth, he would have asked for a catch weight. He would have asked for rehydration clause, blah, blah, blah. But he fought him at 175. I think that in itself is an achievement on its own because he's not a true lightweight. He's really a middleweight. He can probably make middleweight now.
I hear people saying that like, oh, he's a blown up middleweight. I don't know about that one. Georgie, do you agree? Like, I don't see him being a blown up middleweight. I think he's a 168 pounder.
Yeah,
what do you
think?
I
heard that argument as well. They're like, I think Canelo's actually a 164 pound fighter because I think they're saying he doesn't do that because of his knees, the road work. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know how true that is. I think he's at where he's at. I think he's where he needs to be, 168.
I mean, I actually agree with that. I think he's a blown up welterweight, to be honest. But I mean, it doesn't take away from his accomplishments, Well, I mean, it takes a really, really good boxer to do what he's doing.
Exactly, especially. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Professor.
No, it's okay. I mean, the last guy to do something like this was Roberto Duran, and we know how everybody talks about him, I mean, he gets his hate, whatever. I mean, I really, I like to play around, joke around and stuff like that, talk shit. But at the end of the day, I mean, I don't think it makes a lot of sense for him to fight him at 168, to be honest. I mean, if he wants to fight at 168, I mean, he should fight the other 168 contenders, in my opinion. I just want to watch the Bill fight just to see if he can, get that, get back, and then it also serves a purpose that he takes away his title and then he can challenge Better Beef to become undisputed in another weight class. But that's not here nor there, baby steps. Yeah. But me personally, I prefer 175. But Bivens kind of like has his heart set on 168. At the end of the day, I think Eddie Kearn's the one that calls the shots. I think we're going to see that 175 in September.
Dude, people think I'm nuts. Okay, now we're talking about like which fights could pull Canelo a lot of because there's pressure now for Canelo to perform at the box office, and people have mentioned Charlo. I do agree. I think Charlo versus Canelo, just the Charlo name, not necessarily Jamal, but the Charlo brand. If you put those two together, right? I think it'll do over $1 million. People think I'm nuts, bro. And we're speaking of like blown up welterweights. Like, who else started at welterweight? And people think I'm nuts. Errol Spence, dude.
Yes.
I think it's a feasible fight. I think
Yes.
especially if Spence is looking to cash out and he can't make it with Crawford, like there's only so many more Canelo paydays available, especially if he goes on the slide, right? Yeah. Why not move up? I know it sounds nuts, but that's a fight that I think would be entertaining. And I can see where the Spence people are coming from when they think he has a shot. Like, I don't think he has much of a chance, but I see what they're talking about. Like, dude, Canelo, he's much smaller than a lot of these fighters, dude. People think he's like this, like little tank, and he is a tank in a way, dude. But like, if you look at all these photos, like he's always like the smaller guy, dude. Like Spence is gonna be bigger. Like they both started at 147. I think people think I'm nuts, but I've always thought that fight is feasible because
The
they've thrown it at
Benavidez
him
fight.
before.
The Benavidez fight is the one that will do a lot. 1.3, 1.4 million pay-per-view buys. The Benavidez fight.
I actually don't think so, to be honest.
You don't think so? Oh, wow,
Nah,
okay.
I just don't think these guys. I mean, we know them because we watch boxing all the time. But I mean, like for pay-per-view, in my opinion, it takes two to tango, obviously, and the casuals have to know them. I don't know if that many casuals know these fighters because I went to go watch Undisputed over here against Castaño, and it was half empty, man. It was crazy.
Shit. Yeah, I think it does have the potential, right? I mean, everybody's hearing the Benavidez name enough, just like the Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis. It took about 2 years. I think the more that this fight gets talked about, and Benavidez does get some more key names under his resume, it does has the potential. I just don't think now. I think it still will do pretty high. I mean, look at what Plant and Canelo did. It did 800, 900,000. So I think it could do. I think it could do that. But I think you really want to hit those million. Like you got to let it marinate another year or a year and a half. I think.
Right. If you want to cash out, but I think Canelo should take him now. I think, hey man, forget about Bivol. That's my thing. Like take Benavidez now while you're still 32. He's going to be 33 in September. I mean, you're only going to get older. Like right now would be the time to take Benavidez. But I still think he would beat him next year. But I think right now, if you were Canelo and you want legacy, but then again, like Benavidez has to prove himself. All he did was beat Plant so far. That's all he's really done. He couldn't knock him out, even though he said, "Oh, knock him out in 6, mark my words." Well, he didn't, right? However you want to slice it, he didn't, right? So, legacy-wise, like we'll see if that win ages well if that fight does happen.
Yeah. Okay, I got a question about that. Let's just say that Tyson doesn't give him the Mexican monster name, and he's just like, "I'm gonna go in there, I'm gonna do my best against Plant." Like, do you think like the overall performance was still good enough, or were you still expecting for him to knock him out because of what Canelo did?
Go ahead, fellas.
He should have knocked them out. He's bigger. He's so big, Benavidez. But I don't think Benavidez has that power per se to knock guys out. He's more of a
Volume.
Volume puncher. Yeah, and his activity is a lot. I do think that some casual fans do know Benavidez. Doesn't he sell out arenas in Arizona?
Yes, but you know what? A lot of Mexican boxers do well in Arizona. This is a hotbed, dude. I'm telling you. Burchell, Valdez, dude. Chavez Jr. against Jacobs. Like
Ramos is next.
Yeah, dude. This is a hotbed for like, people put fights in Carson, but hardly anybody shows up, which is a damn shame. People don't go to those fights anymore. They should put more of those fights here in Arizona. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know what happened because it was always sold out. Because I live across the street from that arena in Carson, bro, and it was always sold out. I don't know what happened.
That's so. Dude, do you still go to the fight?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I was over there for the Castaño fight. I wanted to go to the Fundura fight, but I forgot what happened. But yeah. And I mean, I've seen like 3 fights of the year there.
Oh, dude, you're so lucky, bro. Back in the day on Chile, we were saying like, dude, if we lived near fucking Carson, I'd be going to a fucking shit ton of those fights, bro. But you know what? Yeah, dude, I heard that did you go to the Fundura fight?
I went to the Fundura and the guy that Arrow beat. What's his name? Ocampo.
Okay.
I went to Regis and Cepeda. I went to obviously Castaño and Charlo, and then back in the days, I went to Paratnikov, Bradley, Vasquez Marquez.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean that place is like, I don't know, it has like a way of like producing like great fights.
Right. It used to have that great reputation, but dude, like during that Fundura fight, and I've D-Style mentioned this, and I agree, dude. Like hardly anybody shows up anymore, dude. And I heard people were leaving in that last Fundura fight before like the fight was over. I couldn't believe it. Like that's a shame, dude. Like,
yeah.
So I mean, that's what I heard. Well, I know that for sure the crowd was empty. There was nobody there, dude. Like you could see it. I say put these fights in Texas, put these fights in Arizona, where there's like a strong Mexican fan base, dude, because you'll sell better. It just looks better for optics too, dude.
No, it does. Yeah, I don't know what's going on because, like, obviously California, it's normally like a boxing hotbed, especially Southern California. But I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah,
you know what it is too. A lot of the Californians are moving to Arizona.
Yeah,
makes sense. It's true. Yeah, it makes sense.
That's true, dude. It's freaking expensive in California, dude. But yeah, dude, we'll see what happens with Canelo. Anybody got any final thoughts before we wrap this one up? Puro Sur, like, what are you cooking this weekend, dude? What are you doing here?
Oh man, I'm probably gonna go to my buddy's house. That's usually where I go to the fight parties. But yeah, usually Canelo. I mean, usually because me and my buddies, we're big boxing fans, so like we're always having some carne asada or something like that. So Tekken Ryan got pretty good, so
Beautiful.
so Canelo's
Do
gonna
you-
get even better, I'm sure.
Do you guys buy rounds at the fight parties?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we usually depending how many like people show up, we usually do like two. We have to do like a couple, like we have to do like two raffles or whatever.
I love it. How
Oh,
much? How
nice.
much per round? for you
$5.
guys?
$5.
Yeah, it's
it's
nice.
$5.
$5 is perfect, man. Like you could win some money, but it's nothing if you lose. Then you could buy another fucking hat's worth,
Yeah, exactly. No,
Yeah.
it's fun. It's like random and shit, and pretty much people like, like when Mayweather used to fight, it's like everybody had round 12, like he fucking won round 12, just give him money,
I know.
Very true. Yeah. Well, okay, real quick, what do you guys think this will do pay-per-view wise? I mean, does it matter?
Sure.
What
No,
do
let's
you
talk
think?
about it.
That
What do you
matters.
think?
I think it does 300.
I think like 500. I think that people are underestimating Canelo's pure office power. I think they're underestimating Cinco de Mayo fight weekend, and the Mexicans want to get that bad taste out of their mouth from Ryan Garcia's pitiful performance.
He's not Mexican.
Canelo is back, and you know what? I wish it was on Showtime. Like, I do think he loses numbers when he does the whole DAZN thing.
Yeah,
I think
correct.
there's something to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I say 550.
What do you think,
That's
Rusor?
where I'm going. 550. Ryder, he's not very well known, amongst the casuals, but that's what he did with Bivol. Nobody really knows Bivol.
Nobody knew who Bivol was. Ryder might even be slightly. Well, actually, nobody knows who he is.
Nah.
I knew where you were going. I would actually agree with you. I think Ryder's probably more known than Bivol.
Yeah.
Nah. Bivol is well known, dude. Bivol, it was a champion too, dude.
Just because of the fan base, though, because the British are like the Mexican fan base, man. They love their boxing. That's why I say that.
True. That is true.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, let's wrap it up. Hey, I want to thank D-Sal for coming on, Lil Penny and Puro Rusur for joining us at the end. Everybody, enjoy this week, man. Enjoy this week. It's fight weekend. Everybody, take care. Peace.
Peace.